back, listeners, to today's exploration of mindful living, where we delve into the transformative intersection of hypnotherapy and mindfulness. That's what we're going to do today. Our discussion will uncover how hypnotherapy can serve as a powerful tool to unlock inner peace, reduce stress, and cultivate moments of joy. And to help me with this conversation, I'm honored to have Katische Haberfield with us. Well, she's a certified clinical hypnotherapist, past life regression therapist, medium, and spiritual guide. Now, Katish channels the wisdom of Archangel Zadkiel and collaborates with Archangels Michael and Zadkiel to help individuals discover profound happiness and joy across lifetimes and dimensions. And her unique, heartfelt approach promises to enlighten and illuminate the deeper aspects of what it is as mindful living. So, listeners, I'm very sure you are curious to explore, dive deep into this interesting topic and conversation. So, let's quickly jump in. So, Kirish, as always, it's an absolute excitement and thrill to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay. So, Kirish, in the context of mindful living or mindfulness, how do you define hypnotherapy? Where do we fit that, small piece into this entire universe of mindfulness?
Sure. So, the best way to understand it is if you want to think about your everyday life. So, you're aware of the thoughts that you have. Like, if we're having a conversation right now, you're using your conscious mind and you're aware of the conversation that we're having. You're having thoughts about what's coming up next, what question I'm going to ask. Um, but also, sometimes your questions might reflect in me an example or a situation that I've been in that can illustrate a concept. And that may come up from my subconscious mind. It's not a memory that I've thought about for quite a long time, but I might say to you, oh, that reminds me of a time when I was 3 years old. I haven't thought about this for a while, but it's a really good example of this distinct emotion that I felt. So that's the subconscious mind. It's like the filing cabinet of all of our memories, all of our emotions, all of our beliefs, our thoughts, and our behaviors. So the our mind accesses that filing cabinet whenever we are in any kind of a situation. It says, "Have I been here before? Is there something relevant to know? Do I have some wisdom? What can I pull from this invisible filing cabinet?" And so what hypnotherapy does is it's a tool to access the subconscious mind. And generally what happens is you go into a hypnotic state, which is basically a way that we take you through a series of relaxation exercises with your eyes closed to basically remove all the tension out of your body through a relaxation process where we relax all of the different parts of your body. We get all that sort of the jitters and the worries out of your body, and then we basically talk to your subconscious mind whilst you're still getting relaxed, saying, it's okay, you're safe. We're going to then bring in the form of clinical hypnotherapy that I use, which is
Mhm.
a direct conversation with the subconscious mind, so that we can then use a tool of hypnotherapy, which is called age regression or regression to present life, which means your subconscious mind can have a conversation with us and take us back to the direct moment, emotion, thought, feeling, or place in time that is impacting you in that moment that you need help with. Because obviously, if you go to a hypnotherapist, there's something troubling you or there's something you want to change in life. And in your conscious mind, you haven't been able to grasp what it is that is making you feel sad or angry, or why you aren't achieving goals, or why you can't stop smoking, or why you're having trouble sleeping, or why you're reaching for that fourth glass of wine. And so basically, you use a hypnotherapist when you're trying to create change in your conscious world, but you haven't been able to use your everyday tools to bring forth the root cause reason as to why you're experiencing or not experiencing something in your life. So what it is that you are mindful in your waking daily state that there is something that is not quite right. You have tried mindfulness techniques, you've tried breathing techniques, you've tried journaling, you've tried writing poetry, you've tried talking to a counselor and using some talk therapy. But this mindfulness, this awareness of the problem isn't solving the situation. So you've gone, okay, so I've tried the conscious mind strategies. So the next step for me to get results must be to talk to the master filing cabinet to see what is in that filing cabinet that is causing me to hold myself back. Because we're always looking at the root cause and ultimate root responsibility of our lives. So therefore, the way that we look at our life, the way that we react to our life is our responsibility. So let's look in our own filing cabinets before we go and blame the world, the government, your friend, your neighbor, or whatever. You are responsible for your own behavior.
Wow, that's really fascinating, because well, I mean, I have had conversations around how much do we use our conscious and subconscious mind. So almost 80 to 90% of all everything, is there in our subconscious minds, which we actively don't have the access to. Sometimes we have dreams or nightmares, which are kind of the projections of those stored memories, or the closets or cabinets in our subconscious mind. So I mean, does it depend on the degree of, or uh the difficulty or the criticality of the situation the person is going through and they are under hypnotherapy? I mean, does it affect the time taken to access those cabinets or, memories uh from subconscious, or it's same for everyone?
Look, obviously some people will have more complicated situations, but basically 3 to 5 90-minute sessions via Zoom will help you deal with the most important um, level that you need to deal with to access your current problem. So what I do,
Mhm.
and what I've been trained to do is that it's not, you can't just book a session. You have to fill out a very lengthy application form. And what that does is that starts to work with the subconscious mind. A lot of people, get really frustrated, agitated, maybe even angry or cry when they fill out the forms because
Mhm.
they're trying to access what's going wrong. And so the forms ask very specific and pertinent questions. Like, so it's basically writing a 1,000 to 2,000 word essay by the time you've finished it, because we really want to get to what it is. Because a lot of the times you can't put your finger on what exactly is the correct emotion that you're feeling
Mhm.
for this problem, or like, if you imagined a sponge cake or a layered sandwich, there are so many different you might have the presenting emotion of anger, but underneath anger might be the emotions of guilt or betrayal or sadness. And to come to peace, you need to discover for the particular issue that you've identified, which one of those is actually the emotion that holds the key to unlock this. So you have to work through it. And generally, in 3 to 5 sessions, you will have unlocked the most important emotion that's holding you back. But what is the thing about the interactive hypnotherapy that I do is that we don't just tear the walls of the castle down. We don't, rip open the filing cabinet to look for all the nasty stuff. We build you up first. We create confidence. So we show you times in the past of how your subconscious mind can be a friend for you. So we show you memories that are related to your issue that are a success. So we say to the subconscious mind, give me examples of how I have in my past in this life been successful in ways that I don't even remember. Maybe it's some way that I've helped a friend or a colleague. Maybe I've helped myself. And we connect them to their inner wise self, which I would, in a spiritual session, like say a past life regression session, I would call that the higher self. But in a hypnotherapy session, I would call it your inner wise self. And your inner wise self is there on hand to help you find those right emotions. And if something does come up that's really going to upset you, it's usually in the second session. So we do the first session, which is positive reconnect to positive situations, because let's face it, a lot of people haven't tried hypnotherapy and they're a little bit curious about the process. They're a little bit worried about the process. They don't want anybody to implant suggestions in their mind. And I remember I'll tell you that story in a minute, but you have to develop confidence in the process and in the hypnotherapist. So the first session is about positive resources. If some emotion comes up for some known reason, then we help them work through it with the inner wise self, because you have to release emotions. Um, Otherwise, they stick into the body and they create stress and illness. And it's in this second session that we go into the more troubling memories. And what we do there is that we don't just immerse you in the memory and say, right, now I'm going to make you cry or shout until you shouted it all out. No, we ask the inner wise self to find the meaning within that memory so that you can view it. You can, your subconscious mind can just say exactly what you want to say. I felt this, I felt that. And then you can actually um, ask the inner wise self, do I want to review this scene? Do I want to reframe that scene, or do I want to rewrite that scene so that I can pull out the wisdom and see how there's probably something very silly, something very funny about
Mhm.
the way that I was viewing the world and myself at that moment. And sure, I feel compassion for myself because I didn't know any better at that time.
Mhm.
But let me have a look through the eyes of wisdom at that moment. Let me pull out the pain. Let me find the wisdom. And then in the third session, what we do is we go back in and we say, rightio, now that I've looked at that situation, is there anybody I need to forgive? Do I need to have a conversation with someone to forgive myself and them for that incident? And so you're not really speaking to that person, but you're having a conversation with your consciousness to allow yourself to say all of the things that you wished you could have said, but probably weren't healthy at the time, and probably would have caused an issue. And then when you go through that forgiveness process, you can say, okay, now what would they want to say to you? And what your subconscious mind does then say is, gives you a perspective on their aspect of the situation for forgiveness. And sometimes, you can't go very deep. Maybe it's a karmic relationship. We don't know because it's not a past life regression session, but maybe it was a horrible thing. Maybe you can only do 20% or 50% or 60% of forgiveness in this session, and in this lifetime. But 60% is a great amount of forgiveness to give. And then so we do the forgiveness exercise with yourself and others. And then we do a body scan and we say, um, can you see any cords of attachment between the two of you, and between the emotions? And if you can, give it a symbol and a representation. And let us, if you're ready, and only if you're ready, remove those cords of attachment, remove those faces or symbols or colors or emotions so that they become more and more distant and they just fall away, they dissolve. And so then you've given a cord cutting or a release of some sort. And then what we do then is we take them through a future progression, which looks 1 month, 1 year, and 3 to 10 years in the future. So you can see how what you've done over the 3 sessions has changed your life and what the potentials are for the future. So it's really quite a lot more interactive and complex than when we think, oh, I'm just going to go to a hypnotherapist and they're going to put some program in about I'm not going to eat my piece of cake today. No, it's a whole lot more complicated than that actually, and it's really profoundly transforming.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the way you explained the entire uh, process, it seems it would look like very long, maybe emotionally taxing process, but I think it definitely takes time because we are going beyond the conscious mind. We are going to the deep layers of subconscious mind. So I think it really really will definitely take time. Uh, and and also when we talk about hypnotherapy, there are a lot of misconceptions surrounding that. So,
Mm.
first of all, I would like to ask two questions here.
Mm.
What kind of misconceptions you normally encounter when you first suggest a client or a person about hypnotherapy, and then how do you overcome them?
Sure. So the first thing that a lot of people think of is a stage hypnotist, where you're seen on a TV show where there is a hypnotist who, I mean, I don't even don't even know how they do it because it's not part of my training, but they basically bring up volunteers and they
Yeah,
make them walk like a chicken on a stage or whatever.
exactly.
Um, yeah, that's not my jam. That's not what I do. I don't even know how they do it or why they would want to do that. That's not the purpose of hypnotherapy, but that's a hypnotist. They haven't had the extra training to become a hypnotherapist and or a clinical hypnotherapist. So
Mm.
it's not staged. I'm not going to make you jump around like a chicken. And the important thing is that you're not actually unconscious. You're not out cold. You are in control, and your higher self and your inner wise self will not allow anything to happen to you that is um, extra to or not part of the intention that we set for a session. So we set an intention, and you have to agree to the intention, and we also agree with you to the hypnotic statements that we're going to make in terms of um, working with your mind. We make a statement as to where you would like to be at that end of that session, and so that follows into the second part, which is, are you going to, when I am so-called asleep, because people think they're going to sleep. They're not. They're just relaxing. They're in a hypnotic state, which means that they're in the theta state. It's just a
Mhm.
different brainwave state. So they think that, oh, I can't hear anything and I won't remember anything, and she might say something weird. So, maybe I'll suddenly become attracted to men who have tattoos, and I don't like men with tattoos. No, this is an ethical, certified person. And what we do is we follow a very cleverly, carefully worded transcript or script, which uses neuro linguistic programming to basically make sure that word for word we have everything very carefully planned out, because we're dealing with your subconscious mind. So it's suggestible. So anything that we say in this session, we are very conscious that we are having a conversation with your subconscious mind, and we have to be precise with our language. That's the whole thing. We're trying to discover how you've used language and thoughts before to get yourself in the pickle that you're currently in. So we've got to unpick that pickle and use the power of your imagination and your language to create new possibilities for you. So that's the second thing. We don't put in um, things that are irrelevant to the session. We don't make suggestions that you haven't pre-authorized. And because the other thing is that, you can do a lot of wonderful relaxation and hypnotherapy sessions on YouTube. And so there is part of my ethical profession thing is not to bag anybody or criticize anybody from other models of hypnotherapy. But
Mm.
we all find what we need to at the moment. And in some forms of hypnotherapy, the therapist just puts in suggestions to help you relax or to help you go to sleep. And that's great because that's all you needed at that moment. But
Mhm.
when you come to clinical hypnotherapy and when you look at the working directly in a conversational style with your subconscious mind, you are ready to get to the root cause. Okay, so we're not just layering suggestions on top. We're not just like putting in affirmations that say, I will eat broccoli, I will eat more green vegetables. We are going to it and saying, what happened that makes you want to vomit when you see a spring roll? What happened that makes you afraid of snakes? What happened that makes you want to drink a whole bottle of wine instead of having one glass? So we're looking for the moment in time that is the cause. And we're not just saying a bunch of affirmations, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. No, we're saying, we know you can't do it. That's why you've come to us. So let's go on exploration. Let's find the right file in that filing cabinet. Let's review it. Let's get the wisdom out of it, and let's move you on so we can heal that moment, give you the wisdom from it, and create a new moment in the future for you. So they're the main things is, am I safe? I guess people are always worried, well, can I even get relaxed enough to do hypnotherapy? And
Mm.
yes, you can. I've never had anybody who can't get relaxed enough for me to contact the subconscious mind, because there's pre-session work, the form. We give you practice sessions to do in the safety of your own home, and the journey that you go through with me and any hypnotherapist gets you relaxed with a specific formula that has been tried and tested to get you into that correct theta state. So, um, yeah, it's a matter of developing a trust between the practitioner and the client, and so we understand that most people don't sort of have great opinions of hypnotherapists, and that's why these new techniques have been developed so people can really see and understand and develop a trust. I mean, when I first came across this approach, um, I was given a tape. And I was so afraid, and this is like when I was a teenager. Well, I must have been 2021, and I was dating a boy at the time at university, and um, he gave me a tape. And I was like, "I'm not gonna turn that on and lie down. I don't know what's on this tape." And I remember sitting up straight in a chair, listening to the tape, because it was back in the days, when they actually had physical cassette tapes, and playing the tape out loud on the loudspeaker, like, with a cup of tea in hand, so I could hear every word that was said, because I wanted to make sure that there wasn't anything going into my brains, that wasn't authorized. So I get it, and that's part of the process. It's, you've got to learn to trust yourself, the universe, and the practitioners, but you've also got to learn that we live in a world of duality. So there are good eggs and bad eggs out there. There are good therapists and bad therapists, and these processes are designed to help you learn to trust your intuition. So, that person's looks highly recommended, but I don't want to go there. I want to go to that one. Or maybe this isn't a modality for me. And so that's why it's an application form, because it might not be the relevant
Yeah.
kind of therapy for you. And if you have a mental health disorder or some kind of psychological disorder, then it's not for you. You need to go to a psychotherapist or a um, psychologist or a psychiatrist. We don't take on those kind of clients, because that's not what we're trained in. We're not trained in mental disorders. We're trained in helping everyday people overcome small hills in their life.
Mm. That makes really, really good sense. Makes really good sense, Karish. Also, a very, very interesting part of your hypnotherapy sessions, is connecting with angelic energies, particularly Archangel Zadkiel. So, how does the connection with angelic energies enhance? I mean, how do you bridge the gap between clinical hypnotherapy and the spiritual elements?
Mm. So clinical hypnotherapy won't bring in the angels. Um, I set them up as distinct sessions now. So I have on my website soul exploration, and in soul exploration sessions, the angels will come in. The angels are most likely to come in past life regression therapy, because past life regression therapy, there's that straight away, it brings in the spiritual element for most people who come to me, and different practitioners find different things, but I find that generally people who come to me for past life regression therapy are fairly spiritual people, and so the angels will pop in there because they're comfortable. But if you want a session with the angels, I call that soul exploration. And so, yeah, clinical hypnotherapy doesn't enter into the spiritual world, except for if if something comes up in maybe a traumatic situation in hypnotherapy, and I knew in advance that this person was spiritual and they believed in angels, and I needed an extra resource to help calm them in the moment, then I would say, you know can you see the energies of an angel? But only then, because I'd already pre-authorized it. So it's very separate. If you want to, you can do specific journeys like the happiest moments of my soul sessions, which
Wow.
I call non therapeutic sessions, and in those, the angels can take you to your current lifetime. So what I would call hypnotherapy in terms of the accessing memory from this life, but the context and setup and the intention of that is clearly different from a hypnotherapy session, because in those sessions we don't use an application form, and we're not looking for trauma. They are looking for the happiest moments of their soul. So there can be overlapped if needed, but generally, um, the angels come in past life regression therapy and in soul exploration sessions, unless it's explicitly needed and we're troubleshooting and the client is working with and is familiar with the angels. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is exactly, I love the essence, the fact that, it's not just a common modality or just a therapy session. I mean, the person who is taking the therapy, or let's say going through the spiritual sessions as well, even if it's rediscovering the happiest moments of their soul, I think it empowers uh, you know the person who is taking all this, and it really gives quite a control to decide that what exactly you are looking for, what exactly is your aim, what exactly you're expecting, and then tailoring according to their expectations. So it's not
Exactly.
like something just thrown at them and they have
No,
to.
they are in control at all times. We are facilitating the session, but their inner wise self, and it's their mind, their inner wise self, and their memories, and they will show us what they need help with, and we're there to help them. But yeah, I'm not a mind reader. I can't tell. That's why we take them into that state to get them relaxed enough to have a conversation with the subconscious mind to say, "What's in your filing cabinet, mate? How can I give you a hand? What is stuck? Let us
Mm,
open the drawer that's stuck."
lovely, lovely. That's really fascinating. And you mentioned about your first experience with hypnotherapy back in your teenage days, in your college days. But I would also love to, I think our listeners would love to know, maybe a client story where hypnotherapy led to a breakthrough, maybe in mindfulness, or helping them be more free and happy and relaxed,
Yeah, sure. So, I'll give you an example that is actually on the podcast, because on my podcast, I actually have case studies and they are the live sessions.
Yep.
And um, I took a lady, Isaiah, who's done quite a lot of sessions with me, back to her teenage years.
Mm,
And it was actually very joyful, but there was a lot of emotion contained in it, because um, she's a married middle aged lady now.
okay.
And she was going through a lot of self doubt, a lot of I guess, unhappiness about the way she was feeling about herself.
Mm,
And so her mind took us back to when she was a teenager in Greece, and when she was actually at her happiest. And it showed her how she interacted and behaved with people. And
okay.
it showed her how she actually started to um, feel differently about herself, because she felt she had to be two different people. She lives in France, and she felt she had to have one personality in France and one personality in Greece. In Greece, she felt free. She was surrounded by water, sunshine, good food, exercise. And although we had this stereotypical image of France, her life in France was very different. And she was a very serious person in France. And in France, she felt a lot more responsibility. In Greece, she sort of just ignored what her parents and her grandparents said, and just had a good time. But the narrative in the back of her mind was what a lot of teenagers feel when they're just having fun and they're just exploring and they're just being a teenager, is oh, my grandmother or my mother thinks I'm a terrible person because she thinks I'm very promiscuous. She
Mhm.
thinks my skirt's too short. She thinks I shouldn't be running around going to parties at nighttime. She and then that she becomes the narrative, which then turns into, oh, Isaiah, you're such a tart. Oh, Isaiah,
Mhm.
you're this, you're that, whatever. And what happens is those emotions build up. They actually can layer onto your body. And if you don't release them, if you don't have that ability to be mindful because you've turned it into a painful narrative to say,
Mhm.
oh, grandma, that's okay. I understand you don't understand. You're 70. And grandma, of course, you always wore long skirts or slacks and you weren't allowed to go to the beach because that you grew up in the 1920s or, 1900 and it wasn't appropriate. People didn't even go bathing in public. So,
Yeah.
your conscious mind and works with your subconscious mind to go, it's all right, grandma. I forgive you. It's fine. I'm not a terrible person. I don't behave inappropriately. I was just behaving appropriately for a teenager at that time. And I had fun, I wasn't hurting anybody, I wasn't taking drugs, I was just dancing, eating watermelon and dancing and having fun. And, girls and boys, they have to interact. How else are you supposed to learn to find a husband or a wife? You've got to learn the art of flirting and conversations and who you're attracted to and who you're not attracted to. And what it does is that it releases that emotion so that you feel freer. And she cried a lot because she realized how beautiful she felt back in the days in Greece. And when you release that emotion, you realize you're just the same beautiful person. It's just you're a little bit older. And as we get older, our body changes and it's okay. We still radiate the beauty within. She's a great person. It radiates the beauty within, and what it does is it just removes that stuck emotion from the body. And sometimes, as a by process, you might, and depends upon the intention of the session, you may actually lose some weight because when you hold some um, emotion so close to you that defines you as ugly or fat or no good or grandma said this, grandma said that, rah, 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 it becomes like a stone in your body, and it actually translates into physical weight. So you remove the emotion, you reframe it, you find you feel beautiful anyway. It helps you to find the things in your wardrobe that make you feel beautiful. Maybe you need to buy new sheets so you sleep better because, you want to make yourself feel beautiful in bed. Maybe you eat more watermelon like you used to in Greece. What it did for her was it helped her to move forward and realize that she was worthwhile, that it didn't matter what her grandma thought. And she's a grown woman. She can discard those memories, the painful parts, and say, oh, grandma, I love you, but, I don't need you anymore. I'm a middle aged woman. I'm perfectly fine to look after my life. And I'd noticed she went off and she did some amazing because she works with the goddesses.
Mhm.
That's her modality of healing. She went off and she had some beautiful, beautiful photo sessions where she dressed up as all the different Greek goddesses.
Wow.
So that was great. I love seeing that. I was like, it gave me chills. It's like, yay, Isaiah, look at you, you great big goddess. And I say big goddess because the energy field around her is just
Mhm.
astounding. She's just so full of vitality and wisdom, and the goddesses is a big area to discover. And so, when you dress up as a goddess, you embody the energy of the goddesses. So she had a great big photo session with lots of different costumes, and she brought that in to embody her work.
Wow. What a transformative story. What a transformation. And I think, it's like I mean such a beautiful storytelling you did. And I was, kind of picturizing peeling the layers of an onion, just layer by layer. You are just just getting your actual version, your radiant self, in and out of yourself, through just, forgiveness or self love or self compassion, forgiving the people who might have judged you or done you wrong, uh, which is kind of affecting you physically and mentally. So it's really, really, really a great transformation. Such an
Yeah, thank you. It is, and I guess the key thing there is you never had to have a discussion with grandma. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to confront the people. You just need to deal with your own mind and forgive them and understand in your own mind, and that's it. Grandma, if she's still alive, I don't think she is, um, can go on living her life, and you behave differently towards them. You're just, like, a bit kinder.
Exactly. Exactly. Wow, wow, and that put things really into a different perspective when we deal or we think about our hardest or darkest moments of our life. So, Kerish, if our listeners would wish to explore more about hypnotherapy, and also they would love to learn more about your happiest moments of my soul sessions, how they can do that.
Sure, they can go to my website, katish.com. And on the hypnotherapy page, there is a free booklet that they can read about how the mind works. And there's also a free hypnosis session that they can actually listen to that will help them understand the hypnotherapy process. And they can just download that and then do it themselves so that they learn about the process before they decide if it's relevant for them.
Superb, superb. I would encourage all of our listeners to just try it out and see how it works. And I'll have all the details mentioned in the show notes for listeners to get easily connected and check out the resources you mentioned. And Kedish, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your enlightening insights and, personal experiences as well as practical explanation of hypnotherapy. I think it does remove all kinds of unnecessary misconceptions that people generally have about hypnotherapy, and I think definitely this works in enhancing mindful living. So thank you.
Thank you, Sana, for the opportunity to chat with you again.
And thanks to all of our listeners for embarking on this journey of the mindful living. We hope this conversation inspires you to seek out those small moments of joy that can lead to profound happiness in everyday life. So stay mindful and keep exploring. Thank you.